Yeah, that really is a great question, and I think people come at this this changing world of work with a whole range of different perspectives and from a range of different experiences, and it would be great to know what we have in the room in terms of where people are at with remote work. Has anyone had a bit of experience working from home or working from a co-working centre? I think about half of the room. Is anyone managing? Sure. You can't hear me that well? Okay. Is anyone managing workers who work from home or who work from a co-working centre? Yeah, brilliant. And been doing that for a while, or?
Yeah,
Yes.
through multiple roles.
Yeah. Okay, through multiple roles. Or thinking about managing staff from remote location. Anyone in that boat? Not quite. But thank you, that is great to know. So we have a lot of people who are experienced practitioners in the room who have done the work from home themselves. But really, when we're thinking about what can business do with this, where can we take it? It's all about how it looks as a manager or as a leader, and how do we build that into our businesses so that we can really benefit from that. And it's quite a different story from that side. So let's have a look at some of the things to consider. Firstly, the massive growth in remote work and in mobile work has surprised even the predictors. So the International Data Corporation is an organisation that predicts all kinds of things around digital economy. One of them is mobile work, and they had to revise their earlier prediction of 1.2 billion mobile workers up to 1.3 billion mobile workers by 2015 because the numbers were growing even faster than expected. But just how prevalent is that here in Australia? It is really quite prevalent. So we see that already 51% of employees in Australia are using the internet to work away from the office, and half of those are working 2 days per week, the equivalent of 2 days per week in their hours, outside the office. So that means that, out of everyone that you meet, there's a good chance that at least one of them is working at least 2 days a week at home using the internet. So it's really very prevalent, and sometimes enabled by cloud, other times just email and phone. But cloud is really where there's a lot more potential to increase the power of remote work and work from anywhere. And I think that comment that Dean made about cloud bit just being so powerful, I really see that in this space. In fact, one of the best ways to kind of understand what remote work offers a business, as opposed to what traditional work offers a business, is I think the difference between kind of a jet plane, aeroplane versus a car. So the car will kind of get you there, but as soon as we realise that a plane is going to be faster, more powerful, more direct, in fact it will get us there so much faster, that's the mode that people are preferring. So it's increasingly becoming mainstream. The car is kind of becoming last century's work, last century's technology. So we're finding there's a whole range of different ways that we're trying to talk about this shift. Telework is one of them, just one of them. Mobile work, working from home, flexible work, hot desking, activity-based work, telecommuting. You'll hear all kinds of things, and really I might use just a range of those terms in this presentation today to talk about work that breaks free of that traditional model of 9 to 5 in the office and has a new flexibility. So I think we haven't really decided on one term, so it's hard to kind of give one term, but I think probably remote work captures it best. So the question is, how can your business capitalise on this emerging norm? And there's a new flexibility, not just around where the work takes place, but also when it takes place and how that work is going to get done. And we'll talk a little bit more at the end of the presentation. I'll give a few kind of stellar examples of companies in Australia that are really benefiting from flexible work, from remote work, from work from home. But initially, every company has a set of fears around how they're going to do this. This is kind of the archetypal kind of managerial concept of what we think work from home is about. He's working from home. He's got his laptop. He's working, right? No. He's admitting to his friend, actually, not at all. Watching TV, got the computer down by the side, not working at all. And this really is the predominant fear that managers have, that organisations have, that remote work is really just a fantastic excuse to get away, for their employees to get away with doing nothing at all. In fact, we see that the opposite is the case. And the research consistently shows that. I don't know if anyone was watching a show on the weekend, AusBiz Asia. There was a really large investment banking firm interviewed, and they, again, their representative there was saying that they consistently see that people who are offered flexible work options give more back to the company, and this is even more so the case with flexible work that is remote work. So work from home can consistently achieve productivity gains of at least 20%, and that's not an exaggeration. So that's equivalent to if you've got a full-time worker working 5 days, 20% is the equivalent of them working an extra day for your company in terms of the outcomes that they achieve. So the three main fears are that work won't get done, also that the quality of interactions between remote workers and colleagues will diminish, and that workers are more unsafe doing this kind of work. So let's have a look at how all of these legitimate fears can be addressed. And I should perhaps give you a little bit of a background to why I can talk to this topic as well. I spent a couple of years working in the federal government here, leading the national initiative to increase telework in Australia. It was part of the digital economy strategy. Fantastic window into what some of our industry partners were doing and how they're doing this effectively. We conducted research. We established a website called telework.gov.au. We were giving people information about it, and it was really, for me, a kind of deep introduction into the issues and the challenges that businesses face. So happy to kind of continue the conversation with you about that as well. But this is a very quick overview, just gives you some of the things to think about, some of the major things that are a concern. So how to address it? Essentially, these are a quick kind of snapshot of the things that you would need to look at. Your business, its activities, and whether your workers suit telework. The need to train managers, the need to consider telework an innovation, and to consider adjusting your work environment as well to really take advantage of the productivity benefits that are available. So we'll have a look at all of these. I've gone through the literature and I've looked at businesses that are around and doing this successfully, and it's possible, we've done this as a team at teleworkhowto.com, it's possible really to distill these 7 critical success factors. So each business that does this well has these in place, and the academic literature supports it quite strongly. Leadership is essential. So the change that's happening in an organisation is significant. Leadership is just as important as it is in any other change program, but it also is important because managers need upskilling, and because it's quite new and different, people are really in need of direction and clarity. So leadership is absolutely essential. A willingness to innovate, to treat telework as an innovation. It is a workplace innovation, it's a different way of doing things, and there's ways that we handle that. So we look at trialling, piloting, assessing, doing it in an agile, flexible kind of way. So it's important to treat the shift to work from home in that same way, as an innovation and as a learning process. Having a suitable workforce. Usually this means knowledge workers. Team members are not excluded, so teamwork is not excluded from remote work, and in fact some remote work teams can be some of the highest performing teams in businesses. Manager training, this is just an essential. You see it everywhere, you read about remote work, it's just an essential. There's a fair amount that managers need to do to upskill, and I'll go into that shortly. A general level of flexibility in the company. Flexible workplaces have flexible work policies. It just kind of goes together. Capacity to measure performance against outcomes. So this is a really important midway step between having absolute trust in someone and completely losing control. So it's more down the trust end, but it's the important midway step where an organisation looks at results and says decides to measure that on perhaps a less frequent basis, but they support and upskill their team members to do that work. And then planning. So planning is just really important, not least because you've got to have the right technology. You've got to be able to decide when people are having meetings, when are we going to do this face-to-face, when are we not. But it's important in a lot of different ways. So just quickly, some of the roles and tasks that suit telework. We've got just a snapshot there. Professional, scientific, technical roles, information, media and telecommunications, finance and insurance, administration and support. So these are kind of a general description. It's essentially knowledge work that can be done at a desk, can probably be done at a desk at that person's home with the right technology and the right management in place. A point that I make is if your goal is to improve productivity across the organisation, then it really is important to implement telework across the organisation. So there's research and there are reasons behind that, but that is those organisations get the best results when they make it possible for anyone to telework, and then they allow people to opt in as opposed to telling them that they must remote work. So that is the best way to do it. But you also need to have manager training and a trial with each employee. So not just a trial with an area, but a trial with each employee. And make the point as well that part-time telework is often the ideal. Again, the research supports this, that the technology just hasn't got to the point yet where it's really going to replace face-to-face most of the time. So in fact, part-time kind of achieves a balance of contact face-to-face and work from home. And it's probably the best place to start trying to see what is the best arrangement in your organisation. So it's important just to think about how managers do this. They have a lot to do. They have a fairly significant load to bear, and so these are just a few things that really stand out in what a manager's job is now about. Clearly articulating the results that are needed, rather than monitoring a person's activity at their desk. And that does require a bit of forward thinking and thinking, what is this person's job about? What can I assess about this work? When are we going to check in on the progress and the outcomes? And how am I going to describe not just the work that needs to be done, but are there any quality standards as well? Things that I'm saying, don't do it like this, but do it like that. That's important to the organisation. That represents our culture and values. Those kind of conversations. So written performance plans become very important, as do kind of weekly updates and checking in reports. And the manager's job becomes less about monitoring and more about leadership and empowerment coaching. Thank you. Great. So, even though there is a fair amount of upskilling to do, managers can have happier, more engaged teams. Workers love the opportunity to do remote work, and there is plenty of evidence that people will seek that out. They'll seek out a flexible work arrangement. They'll seek out a remote work arrangement if they can find one. But the demand far exceeds the supply at the moment. So if you offer remote work in your organisation, you really have a fantastic opportunity to attract the best and brightest. So this is just a few more of the things that managers need to do. Provide certainty around the team's mission. So that's where leadership is coming back to that point. Leadership is really important. Use other technologies. Email shouldn't be the primary mode of technology. of communication. Maintaining that social contact is essential. Some organisations will just make a call every week, you know, hello, this is just a social chat, how are you going, is the dog sick still? Making an effort to keep employees in the loop, so social networking can be fantastic for that. If they weren't there for the birthday cake, at least they see a photo on Facebook about it. And keeping communication open and steady between staff is really important as well. So with that point about the technology that I made there, is that this is kind of the ideal placement, if you like, for these technologies. So there's, if you think about communication as a complex task, some communication is very complex and other communication is not so complex. And we have a lot of information that we're trying to get there. A person's facial expression, their intention, their, you know, the context. And so email doesn't give you much information, shouldn't be used for complex communication. High definition video conferencing, it's just like you and I, it's almost just like you and I meeting face to face, except I can't actually hand you that glass of water that you need if you're coughing. But yeah, it's for complex communication, negotiations, liaison, you know, team brainstorming, stuff like that. That's your ideal, gives you the most amount of information. And then it's worth mentioning mobile devices enabled by the cloud. These social collaboration tools that are possible now, Skype is becoming one of them where you can share your screen, etc. And virtual private networks are one of the ways that people manage this securely, because they provide a great high performance secure network. So the last area is your physical work environment, just to mention WHS because I raised that as a fear that people have. The government's advice on this is to know what what the regulator in your state what their advice is. So, and that doesn't give you much more than just kind of having to read through their advice. But there is a fantastic book by a company called WorkPro that I'm aware of. It's an ebook. It's a free download. It's fully legally compliant, and it gives you all step by step how to manage the WHS. So some businesses are reaping the rewards, and what you don't see here are the logos of the companies. And perhaps due to shortness of time, I won't go through what all of these benefits are, but their productivity, attraction and retention of staff, saving costs. So the companies like Westpac, Medibank, ABC, National Australia Bank, large companies in Australia. And the question now for us is, as work has become a place, not a place to go, but a thing that we do, how are we going to adapt to this new powerful work mode that really is taking over in terms of the way that work happens in mainstream work? So I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you.